These are the tips that can turn this drop into this one. Before we start, I want to show you one problem that the drop has. Take a look at the volume levels before and after the drop. Everything is relative in music. To make a harder hitting drops, you have to create a contrast, and there's a couple of different ways to create this one. First, we will start with the easiest ones, and those are called the master automations. The first one that I see and not many people is using is EQ flaps. Here you can see on the master I have a channel EQ and both lows and highs are automated. Rather than using it on the master, I have a white noise here, just white noise with the reverb. What you often see is that the low end is gradually shelled. In the master you will often see like -3 to -6, but let's exaggerate it and put it like -8 here. And on the high end you can either boost it or you can also attenuate it. I like cutting it off because this kind of balances all the cutoff automations that we will do later on. So it turns the white noise into this. Second trick, very similar on the master, is actually using an imager. Take an imager and decrease the bandwidth. So this really collects everything right in the middle of the sound. So when a drop hits, track open up. Most utilized way to do is actually opening up your cutoff filter so that you have a lot of high end in your track. On this arpeggio here, you will see that just cutoff is opening and opening more. What people avoid doing is actually two things. The first one is adding also the noise onto your lead sound. So not only cutoff, but the noise volume increases as well. And on top of this, there is also one more trick that you can utilize, which is the detuning your lead sound while you're approaching to the drop, which creates this uncanny feeling. In stereo, you can do that by just increasing the detune amount on your lead sound. Other overlooked technique to add energy to your breaks is grouping up your pad sounds. I have my pads here. They are cool and nice, but they are more ethereal because we are at the break. What you can do though, you can create a parallel chain or a return channel. In this case, I have this return channel, and all you need to do is add an EQ and then add a distortion or overdrive. In this case, I'm using overdrive, and use a glue compressor to smooth up everything and start sanding there while your break is developing. And this trick helps with another trick, which is shimmer reverbs. Shimmer reverbs are extremely important to create ambience, and oftentimes you would like to send pads to shimmer reverb because pads are sustained. So here I have a vanilla shimmer, but this time we will send it right at the end because we don't want too much reverb cluttering this mix. So this is beautiful shimmery sound. You can send anything to shimmer, but my other favorite is definitely the arpeggios, because arpeggios are kind of sustained as well, and they have kind of slightly different timbre oftentimes, like this one, right? Another super overlooked trick that really helps with the tension of your break is high-pitched string sound. The sound should be something like this. So it should be very high pitched. Most of the time the bulk of the sound actually comes above 2 kHz. We use a lot of distortion overdrive to really exaggerate that super highs. Take a listen how you immediately miss that sound when I take it off. It adds so much tension, and it is so easy to make as well. The change of the chord progression during the break itself, and sometimes even creating more dissonant chord progression to add up the tension. And you can see that we go a little bit down first and then go upwards while we are approaching the drop. When you listen separated, it will sound a bit weird because we are jumping on the octave. But at this point, at the break, there are so many things that are going on. This jump really doesn't feel like a jump when you listen together, especially when we have other things staying in the same octave. When I say rolls, everybody thinks about the snares, but you don't need to use the snare all the time. The one thing that I really enjoy doing is actually adding hats and kind of rolling them. So in this case here, we have this really simple hats. During the break, you don't have any drum or any percussion, so you lose the feeling of the rhythm. But if you add something like this, very simple hat sound, it gives you the rhythm immediately. And a cool trick over here, you can use vocoder, but I'm using in this case the shaper box. Basically adds percussive noise on top of the hats, creating more and more drama while we are approaching the drop. The other one, of course, the snare rolls. Everybody does that. And it goes. And then you open this up, giving more energy. When you have other type of percussions, in this case, I call them the cinematic toms. You should sidechain your snare roll to other percussion. So when they hit, you don't hear the snare roll. Here it becomes a bit more obvious. So when toms hit, I really avoid using risers too much because it's kind of the lazy way of creating breaks and drops. But in some parts you have to use them. For example, in drop here, to give the release of energy, I'm still using just downlifter. It's quite in the noise, but it really helps. It did. Other thing that you can use is actually reversed leads. For example, instead of using a riser here, resample the lead tail and reverse it like this. I was mentioning about creating this contrast before the drop so that you can make the drop sounding bigger than it is. One of the most popular way lately is actually adding a pre-drop. Here you see that I have a 1 bar break. So it just helps to clear the ear. And what you should use here to make it really a bit more glued together is kind of leftovers of your arpeggio sound, your pad sounds, your background sound. In this case, I'm just using this arpeggio sound. Just gives an anticipation to the drop. I have less channels in the drop than my break, and this helps really focusing on the main sound in the drop, making it feeling better. In this case, it's basically this clear layered lead sound. And to getting a lead sound that big is having a lot of layers. First layer coming from Serum. And second layer coming from the Hive. And then in Diva, giving this aggressive sound. Everything is extremely distorted, and the final piece is just a kick sound to give the initial hit to the lead sound. The main idea with the group processing is just adding a lot of distortion. I have decapitator, I have the imager to make it a bit narrower, and then another soft wave harmonics and EQ8 and so on and so forth, keeping the distortion as rich as possible. You will see that this lead sound really almost covers the whole entire spectrum. Hence, you don't need too many sounds to make it big. So we should come back to the original command, so the volume difference between break and the drop. So if we open up the preamp again and take a look what happened right before and during the break. So that difference here, right here, is really important. First, didn't go up all the way at our break, so that when we master the tracks, it will still not really go all the way up, so we still have the headroom. And right before the drop, we have this really nice pre-drop, giving even more dynamic range for our drop, and when drop hits, we have this like big boom sound right there. If we do start the end again, you will see how everything comes together with all the tricks that we add up.